The three men convicted in the Nitish Katara murder case have been awarded a rigorous imprisonment by the Delhi High Court, 30 years in prison. Their prison sentence has been enhanced by court. Convicts Vishal and Vikas Yadav will stay in jail for 30 years each. They've also been fined 50 lakh rupees. The third convict in this case, their accomplice Sukhdev Pahalwan, has been handed out a 25-year jail sentence. The sentences include an additional 5 years for destruction of evidence. The plea for capital punishment that both Nitish Katara's mother Neelam and the Delhi police demanded was rejected by the Delhi High Court. The convicts, Yadav brothers and Sukhdev Pahalwan, had earlier argued that they can reform and that their act was not so brutal or gruesome that it deserved capital punishment. Joining me now on the broadcast is Deputy Editor Atir Khan. Also with me is somebody who's been described by the court as a crusader for justice, Neelam Katara. She's fought a 13-year-long battle for justice, and this war for Neelam Katara continues. I'll come to Neelam Katara, but I want to go to Atir Khan first for what happened in court. Atir, the court enhanced the sentence of the convicts in this case. Now, after 14 years, they cannot seek remission. They can only seek remission after at least 25 or 30 years.
Well, absolutely. See, it will not run in concurrence. The sentence has to be served completely, and remember, it's a rigorous imprisonment, which means that he has to be within the confines of the hard jail. And also, another aspect of this judgment was the hospitals. Often accused and convicts, on the pretext of going for medical treatment, they go out of the jail and spend a whole lot of time there and come back whenever they want. So that angle has also been taken care of, Gaurav. It's a remarkable judgment, and it's a landmark judgment in many ways.
It's a landmark judgment, you say, in many ways. Stay with me. Neelam Katara, you've been fighting this case from 2002 onwards, and this has been a long, often lonely battle against very, very powerful people. The court itself said you moved heaven and earth for justice. You're a crusader for justice. What goes through your mind today when the court has enhanced punishment but rejected death sentence?
Well, Gaurav, it's a huge sense of relief, and we've come a long way. And I have not read the judgment yet, but definitely the court has agreed with us that this is a crime in nature of its heinousness, its brutality, and also the fact that it is honor killing. It deserves more than the simple life sentence where they can apply, as you said, for remission. But having said that, I would say that we had asked for death penalty, for capital punishment, and I would like to pursue my fight for that in the Supreme Court. But of course, I need to read the judgment before that and see what is the difference. Have we not been able to put our point across, or maybe the judge has given some arguments which might make me think otherwise. So I'll decide finally after I read the judgment.
Okay. Now, you're an educationist, you're a professor. Now, for somebody like you, you're practically a lawyer. You've campaigned through this for these 13 years for justice. What does this mean that after 14 years, technically, the convicts in this case, they cannot come out of jail. They will have to stay in jail for at least another 10 years. Is that what the judge said? Is that what the court said?
They can't come out after 14 years. They will have to stay, the two of them, for 30 years at least, which is up to 2032, and the accomplice for 25 years. This is what the judge said, and this is something, because I was a complete novice, I've tried to understand many things. This is something which is beyond me, but with all humility, I'd say that it takes such a lot of time and such a lot of effort to get a conviction, and even after the Supreme Court convicts somebody, they can just get a simple certificate of good behavior from the jail authorities, and the state government can let them out after 14 years. This is what could have happened. I mean, they don't have to let them out, but they can. This is what could have happened maybe after a year. So I think we've moved on a huge, long way, that now at least they cannot even apply for remission till 30 years. So this is what that means. And these are one of the things in our legal system or in our constitution which I don't understand.
Stay with me, ma'am. I also want to bring in this broadcast Vikas Singh, former Additional Solicitor General, a legal luminary. Vikas Singh, in a case like this, a senior IAS officer's son is murdered. It's an honor killing. It takes 13 years for the wheels of justice perhaps to partially deliver. What does this indicate, sir? While their sentence may have been enhanced, but is this still a long wait for justice?
No, actually, they have been, most of the time, they have been behind bars. So that way, it has not caused any miscarriage of justice in that sense. But, for the courts, it's a very difficult call, because normally life meant for the biological life. But there was an aberration. Court started considering the power of remission and saying that since their 14 years is mentioned, so they started construing life as if it means only 14 years. So the judge has to balance the principle of penology versus the principle of victimology. Yes. And in this balancing act, if the judge feels that this is not a case for death, but if it is also not a case for life, which is normally understood to be 14 years, then the judge gives a harsher sentence. And in this case has been given for 45 years because they felt that this is a very, very serious crime and done in a very, very casual manner, as if, they were killing an animal. I mean, killing a human being like this, and that too for an offense of what? For just falling in love with the sister of these persons who've been held to be guilty.
Yes.
Is a very serious offense for the courts to consider. And that is why in this balancing act, they have given them a sentence of 25 plus 5, and also made it clear that there will be no remission in this period. So which is, virtually, they don't expect these guys to reform. Basically, that's the concept, or that's the bottom line of this decision.
And there is merit. And there is merit in this. Why don't you expect these people to reform? As my colleague Atir Khan was pointing out, and as Neelam Katara, and I cannot even begin to imagine the agony and the pain it may cause that rich, powerful people, how they exploit and how they're easily able to exploit loopholes in law. How much time do they actually spend in jail, and how much time do they actually spend in hospitals, in 5-star luxury in hospitals? Atir, that was also a point that the court deliberated upon, Atir.
Well, absolutely. You see, Gaurav,
court has
in this.
I'll just come to Atir and I'll come back to you on that, Vikas Singh. Atir?
That was the challenge, Gaurav, before Ms. Neelam Katara. She was not dealing with just anybody, but with people who know the loopholes in the legal system. So it was an uphill task. She was not just dealing with the high and mighty, but people who have criminal background. So it was a tough call. She not just followed up the investigation from day one. I have been covering this case from day one. She's been following it up. But moreover, she's done a wonderful pairway in the court, just like any lawyer would do. And as you were rightly pointing out, by now she must be, if not more, she knows as much law as just any other lawyer. So the court has looked into this angle, and there is a judgment also on this.
And Neelam Katara, the judgment does talk about this aspect, the rich and the powerful, who can either perhaps like Sanjay Dutt come out on parole because it's allowed as per law, or in this case go to hospitals. What is it that you are seeking in this case, Neelam Katara?
Well, in this, of course, on this aspect, I had put out all the data I had collected. I mean, short of living inside Tihar jail, I was following up all their movements after an initial tip-off by somebody from the All India Institute and by some NGOs working there. And, I was surprised. I thought they were just out for one trip. This was all there. And I think the court has viewed this very, very seriously. And therefore, it has said that an inquiry will be conducted against people who have allowed them. And it's surprising. I mean, I was up against the jail authorities. I was up against the police. I was up against the All India Medical Medical Institute, which was allowing Vikas to come and stay there on frivolous grounds, senior doctors of Batra Hospital. I mean, this is, how these people, and it's money, power, and also because of the political power. So this says a whole lot of things about the criminalization in politics. It's not only that they're enjoying privileges as criminals in the parliament and in the legislative assemblies, but people like us, I mean, our lives can be made miserable because some parties will give tickets and a chance to fight election to people like these. And this is one thing which I hope this case has highlighted.
Very clearly here, this has been a long battle for justice, and the battle continues. Vikas Singh, in your appreciation, is this then a fit case for enhancement of punishment? As Neelam Katara was saying, she reserves the right to appeal for the maximum punishment in a case like this. Honor killing, it has to prove to be a deterrence for others.
Well, according to me, I would go by the wisdom of the judges in this matter, and I think 30 years is almost like, your full life. What remains if a boy who's committed this crime was, say, 25 or 26 years old, and if he is in jail for 30 years, he comes out at 55, so really not much of his life is remaining after that, firstly. And secondly, why this long sentence has also probably been given, because, these boys have been, the upbringing of these boys have been very, very wrong. They have been brought up in an atmosphere where they are law unto themselves. They don't know that there is a rule of law in this country. They don't know that they have to go by, what the law of the country says. They take the law, into their hands with impunity, and they have no respect for the law. Even their subsequent behavior has established that they have no respect for the law. So probably that is why the court must have been of the view that this is not a case where there is any expectation of reform. It's only that they will be, if at all, coming out after 30 years, by which time they'll have no capacity or they'll have no, sort of energy to indulge in crime, maybe, because by then, it will be such a long period of time.
The question still remains, should life in prison actually not mean, as long as the natural life of a person remains, he should remain in prison? Neelam Katara.